At the dusk of 2023, I travelled down to Hyogo for the penultimate leg of the winter tour. It being midweek, the arena was less than half full, with the upper floor eerily silent. But suitable noise was still created for the two hometown heroes, Takakeisho and Myogiryu, who have now retired together. When you cover sumo up close, the most moving moments are often the ones you didn't quite grasp at first, but whose significance dawns on you due to a sudden later event. This, I have now learned, was the last time Takakeisho would appear in his native Hyogo as an active wrestler. Four days later, and he would sign off from the Sumo tour for good. This shot was about the best I ever got of him, even before the significance was added. Covering Takakeisho live, as was my self-created privilege in recent years, was certainly never dull, and I think threw his changing fortunes into yet sharper relief. At the start of my stint, he looked every bit the top yokozuna contender. When connecting with that headfirst charge and jabbing away with those pinpoint lefts, he was fiendishly hard to stop. And with knees in decent working order, his famous left thrustover could often be deftly deployed in defense. Did he ever fight a better 15 than November 2020? Granted, no yokozuna were there, and his fellow ozeki were also out, but he still faced a talented field who he beat yet better than before, his hands appearing glued to their chests, corralling them with bouncing feet, and unafraid to put his neck in any dohyo position. His final yield of 13 wins and a second Emperor's Cup gave a new enormity to this bout from 2 months prior to that. For had he beaten Shodai that day, he would have taken that cup too, and, we guess, made yokozuna. Though I wouldn't have said so at the time, given all the knocks he'd overcome, his yokozuna dream effectively died with this match here. One of 3 dread-filled moments of silence which seemed to have foreshadowed the end. He'd first suffered this kind of knock in his 3rd division days, but had never taken time off for it. His only prior rest-ups had been over knee and ankle issues. The ozeki rank he'd let slip before was in danger of being dropped again, and he gave himself only 8 mere weeks before going all out to defend it. You may recall his sumo was dreadfully off that September. He even served us the spectacle of his only defeat to Myogi-ryu in 15 top-flight matchups. The stars still aligned for him to keep rank, but long-term damage had been done. His unquenchable thirst to beat the odds had cost him his peak condition for good. Though able to push his way past most, not least at the close of that year, the Takakeisho of late 2020 would never be coming back. By the time post-COVID tours commenced, he was viewing himself as elder statesman, far more concerned with targeting those who he felt weren't pushing themselves enough than with racking up practice bouts. Chest lending from him at that time was the Sumo version of Full Metal Jacket. His interactions with younger fans, though, more like NHK Nursery Hour. The more lumbering Takakeisho made his final burst for the Sumo Summit in the winter of 22-23, scoring 12 wins in consecutive meets. But his wild celebration of this win here hinted he knew he was outdoing himself. With multiple body parts hanging by threads, he was never going beyond 12 wins, even with all his main rivals struggling. 2 titles in 2023 statistically made for a best ever year, but a total absence in July, followed by this alarming all-stables display, brought a second moment of deathly silence from fans who remembered how good he'd once been. Sheer guts and gumption would somehow bring him a 4th title just 3 weeks later. But via a sidestep of young Atami Fuji, the vitriolic response to which destroyed his psychological shell. For he now felt impelled to somehow summon the Takakeisho of yore that the fans were so mournfully missing. And now knew for sure he no longer could. He continued to fight his battles head-on, then take extended rests, but the third moment of awful silence spoke to him the loudest. I cannot underemphasize how bad this session was for him just prior to May. The records will show he stayed in the ring for another 19 weeks. But those few bouts told him, as well as us, that his sumo had ceased to function.